Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Today is Wednesday, March 26, 2014, and we're here today to talk about competitor analysis. My name is David Black, and I'm the SEMrush Customer Success Director, and I get to work out of our quaint little office just outside of Philadelphia, PA. And here you can see my information up on the screen. Email address, Twitter handle, all that good stuff. I'll keep the introductions brief because we have a lot to cover and we are on a bit of a time constraint today. But I always like to talk about what I do here. You know, I'm pretty much the office. I'm the human FAQ around the office. I've helped thousands of our users and members of our team come on board, learn what our software and the data is all about, what it has to offer, because customer success is all about education. You know, it's all about educating the customer. So if you have any questions about the software or the data presented today, you can ask me via email. You can see david_black@semrush.com. Again, I apologize. Because of the time constraints, I probably won't be able to get to the question and answer portion of our webinar today. Usually I do like 15-20 minutes at the end, but I'm not going to be able to do that today. I apologize. So feel free to type your questions throughout the webinar. Type your questions into the question box because GoToWebinar records all that stuff. So I promise you, we'll download that data and we'll look at your questions, and if we can get back to you, we will for sure. Either me or somebody in one of our support staff or our sales team, anything like that, someone will get back to you. And I think it's important to explain what I do around here because I want to reinforce your trust in me as a presenter, and it's also important for you to trust the source of the data, being cited in today's webinar. So let's talk about that too. SEMrush, we have a massive database of keywords along with data associated with those keywords like search volumes, average cost per click, and competition levels. We take that database of about 106 million of the top keywords worldwide, and we very frequently, sometimes even as often as every day, we automatically query these keywords in Google and some of them in Bing, and we record the top 20 search results, whether it's organic or paid. For each keyword. And like I said, we do this on a frequent basis. So we're talking an insane amount of search engine results pages, SERP data. That's billions, actually, billions upon billions of SERPs each year, in fact. And I think the sheer sample size alone is enough to kind of reinforce trust because the more data that you can analyze in one shot, usually the more accurate of a conclusion that there is to draw. It's kind of almost like solving a riddle or piecing together a puzzle. So common misconceptions, we don't hack into people's web pages or tap into their Google Analytics accounts or webmaster tools or anything like that. Our data, what we're doing is we're actually breaking down the search engine in such a way that allows you, the end user, to analyze the trail of breadcrumbs, so to speak, that your competitors really have no choice but to leave behind. And I'm sure that any of our current users who are attending the webinar today can attest that it's pretty amazing stuff. Okay, and going back to what I was talking about, we all enjoy a little riddle or a puzzle every so often, and that's what competitor analysis is all about. It's about taking the data that you have access to and kind of piecing it all together until you have like a Mona Lisa or the entire Metro New York area, like one of those cool 3D puzzles. And you can achieve that kind of stuff as long as you have a solid strategy for competitor analysis. But in order to do that, you need to make sure that you align your goals with the correct data. When you're doing a puzzle, most people look at the front of the box to have some sort of point of reference because if you can visualize the end result, it actually makes reaching it that much easier. And there's a number of different data points that you can use to arrive at a desired result. So that's what we're going to talk about today, aligning the goals with the correct data, right? And of course, next you'll need access to that data. That's a no-brainer. And today we're going to use SEMrush for that, of course. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time, again, on the demo portion of the webinar like I usually do. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in SEMrush, but I am going to show you from where, how, and why I'm pulling a particular report. So after you have all this data that you've extracted from whatever your source is, being SEMrush, we're going to have to analyze it. Now I'm talking technical analyzation. This is the fun part. And in previous webinars, I've very briefly shown how I manipulate data sets in a third-party program like Excel after extracting it from SEMrush. But today, I'm going to dive into that a lot deeper, which is the real meat of the broadcast, and I think you're all going to find it really interesting. Hopefully not confusing. It's going to be really interesting. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to break the webinar down into two sections. The first part is going to be about the paid side of search, and the second part is going to be about the organic side of search. And at the end of each section, I'm going to kind of wrap it up by explaining a little bit on how to implement all that newfound actionable data so that you can kind of reap the fruits of your labor. Keep in mind, before I always like to say that keep in mind there's a million ways to skin a cat, and the information and the ideas conveyed in this webinar are strictly my own. I'm not an SEO consultant by trade. I'm the SEMrush Customer Success Director. So I'm not necessarily telling you exactly how to interpret or exactly how to apply our data. However, I am trying to let you into my mind, for the next 45 minutes or so and show you the very logical hows and whys behind my strategies, right? It may not work for everyone, and there may even be easier ways to do it. I'm sure for all you Excel experts out there, you may be able to show me a thing or two. But hopefully, you'll at least take something away from the webinar so that you can turn around and apply it to your own strategy. So with that being said, I'd like to start with the paid side of search because I think the methods that I use in it are a pretty good primer or a good starting point. Of course, when we talk about the goal data relationships in paid search, the goal in paid search is simple. Drive conversion-worthy traffic while maximizing your time and your budget for AdWords. And in theory, it's easy to build a successful AdWords campaign, right? No, being a little bit sarcastic. So many campaigns kind of have the tendency to fail, but I think that's because they don't exercise common sense. And they don't make sure that the three main components are properly aligned. There's a lot that goes into an AdWords campaign, but I think there are three main components. And this is exactly where competitor analysis is going to help you exponentially, and I'll show you how. So let's say hypothetically, I'm running an e-commerce website for something like automotive parts. And I've been kicking around the idea of buying AdWords to see if I can kind of tap into a new vein of traffic and increase my conversion rates. So the first thing I want to do is take a look at my competitors' trending, because usually that's a clear indication of their return on investment as far as AdWords go. So now I'm going to jump back to, take myself out of the slides for a moment, and I'm going to jump into SEMrush. Okay? Now when we're talking about analyzing trends, we have a really great tool for this. So right now I've logged in, I'm just in the dashboard, and I'm going to go to Tools under the navigation menu and go to Charts. And this is going to allow you to build essentially a visual aid that's going to represent a good visual representation of your competitors' habits and trends in paid search. So, I run the site, so I know my competitors. One of them is rockauto.com. The next one is carparts.com. Sorry. And the third one is autoanything.com. Right. So this chart module that you can build charts, it allows you to put in up to 5 domains, choose the database that you'd like to extract this data for, and then you can choose parameters. So right now we've added 3 of our competitors. We're going to analyze them all for the Google US database. So same database for all. We'll leave that checked off. And then as you can see, each one of them has this drop-down menu for parameters. And it's broken down into both organic and advertising. You could choose independent parameters under each competitor, but we're going to stick to the same type for all domains today. And we have a few really top-notch parameters available here under advertising research. We have the total number of keywords that they're bidding on. We have the traffic that those keywords are driving, the paid traffic that those keywords are driving, and also the traffic price, which is also known as like their budget toward the keywords that SEMrush is that can correlate to the domain. But today, while traffic and budget seem like the logical thing to do, today I think I'm going to stick to the total number of keywords, because while SEMrush does a great job of measuring budgets and traffic, some of the, we're one of the best out there. I think the total number of keywords is going to give me the clearest picture, because it shows the number of keywords that my competitors are bidding on over a given period of time. In fact, it's set to 1 year. So what I'm looking at is our 3 competitors and the total number of keywords that they're bidding on in their AdWords campaign. So as you can see, one is obviously a little bit higher than the rest. But what I'm seeing here, humans usually have the propensity to kind of look at a chart and think it's only good if it's kind of rising up, which is true. But at the same time, I think there's a lot to be said about steadiness too. And that's what we're seeing here. When we look at this, we can see that all 3 of these competitors, there might be some peaks and valleys in the data and in the line graph itself, and some of those peaks and valleys line up, some of them don't. But for the most part, for over the past year, my competitors have steadily been bidding on the same number of keywords. If this line graph were going down, then there might be some cause for concern. It says, maybe they're not seeing the right return on investment. But to me, if I'm looking at this chart, of course I would do a little bit more analysis, but just for the sake of illustration, if I'm looking at this chart, I'm going to feel pretty confident about proceeding with my journey into AdWords. Okay? But with that being said, like I said before, there's 3 main components that need to align. And first and foremost, you're going to need to target the right keywords. Keyword research, regardless of whether it's an organic campaign or a advertising campaign, keyword research is the cornerstone of every successful campaign. And there are some great ways using SEMrush to ensure that we're going to jumpstart or kickstart our campaign with some great conversion-worthy keywords. And we're going to do that the same way we did with this chart tool. We're going to do that by recognizing and looking for patterns within our competitors' advertising data. Okay? So the first report I want to show you actually is also underneath the tools section, and it's called Domain versus Domain. The module, you'll notice, looks very similar to the charts one. So what I'm going to do, you can put up to 5 competitors simultaneously. I'm going to enter those competitors again. Rock Auto, AutoAnything.com, and CarParts.com was the last one, right? And what this report allows you to do is it's looking at commonalities in keywords. Actually, there's 4 different types of reports that you can produce with just this one tool. Common keywords, unique keywords, all these different reports. But I want to show you the common keywords because it's really cool. So you can choose AdWords under each one because that's what we're looking at. We're going to choose the operator for common keywords and hit go. Okay, so what you're seeing here in this table essentially is all the common keywords between all 3 of my competitors. These are the keywords that all 3 of them are bidding on. And I think the entire idea of this tool is great. But for what I'm doing today, it doesn't have quite the right application. I think it's just one layer of what I want to do, of what I want to encompass with my end result. And I say that because, we're looking at these columns, and it's great that they're all bidding on the same keywords, but here's Rock Auto. They're bidding, for aftermarket auto parts, and they're in position 10, 11, 11, 11, 11 again. And sometimes people have their reasons for bidding, a certain way on a keyword or being in a certain position. But, Auto Anything, position 10, 10, 11, same thing over here. So it's not really, to me, personally, it's not really instilling that trust in these keywords. Like I wouldn't just take these keywords and dump them out into Excel and and then put them right into my AdWords campaign, because it's not quite instilling that trust that these are conversion-worthy keywords, no matter how I slice it. So I want to show you another report called the advertising. It's under Advertising Research, and it's Ads History for Domains. Okay, and I actually have it loaded up here. Oh, okay, it came up pretty fast. Good. I have everything loaded up in the interest of time, just in case something's taking a while to load. But now we're looking at this report, and it's automatically populated for rockauto.com. And essentially, you may have seen something similar in the past. It's taking all the keywords that rockauto.com has bid on over the last 12 months and compiling them into one report. And every time you see one of these blue blocks, I have to say that word very slowly or else I trip over myself. Every time you see a blue block, it represents when SEMrush has found an ad associated with this domain and the keyword to the left. Okay? And also the number inside is where they ranked for that keyword. If you click on it, you can see that it collapses a menu and shows you the ads text. and you can kind of scroll through that. But the important part is that this coverage metric. I love this coverage metric because you'll see that that's how the table is sorted, and it's all 100% coverage. That's why you're seeing blue all across the board. It's showing you that these are the keywords that RockAuto is bidding on most frequently. Of course, going down, you'll probably see less coverage, 80%, 90%, but they've been bidding on these keywords throughout the entire year. Now, to me, that's an additional layer of what we're trying to get at, and that's a huge part of the trends that we want to see. So we don't want to see just one shot. We want to see what they've been doing with these keywords over the course of time. So the next logical step for me would be to take this report and export it to either CSV or XLS format, whatever kind of tickles your fancy there. And it's already sorted by that coverage metric, and that's exactly what we want. So again, in the interest of time, I've done this. I've exported this report for 5 of my competitors, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Excel. Now, this is where we get into the analysis portion of the webinar. So I'm going to open up Excel, and I'm going to import those because I've done them as, I think I save them as like a text file or something like that. But sometimes you'd want to do it as like a CSV, so you need to import them. And I'm going to show you really quick how to do this. It's only 3 simple steps. I go to import. Now I got my paid data here. I'm going to open up one of my competitors, and it's going to give me 3 prompts for this import wizard. I'm sure you guys already know this. So I want to choose delimited because I can already see that these data are already delimited by semicolon, right? And if I choose that, you'll see it kind of just opened it up and it's putting it in proper spreadsheet format, right? Next, and the third one, this prompt wants you to kind of, you can set the format for any column or omit the column if you want, but I'm just going to leave it all in there. So let's just go finish, and bang, there we go. We got all of our keywords, and it's kind of laying out the report a little bit differently than what you saw in SEMrush because everything's like set up as a spreadsheet. But you can see each keyword has 12 instances of it. They're in sets of 12, and the date that they were bidding on those keywords, and also where they were ranking for them. The other thing that's very important is the URL associated with those keywords. Now, it's very hard for me to take this and look at it a certain way. So what's going to help me visualize this data a little bit better is by using something called a pivot table. Now, I'm not sure if you have any experience with a pivot table, but what it does is essentially, it literally, like it says, it pivots the data. So it takes a columnized data, I don't even know if that word is real, columnized, and turns it into a row, essentially. So it takes the instances, all the same instances of the data, and moves it into a row, and it almost creates, like, if you can imagine like a website's navigation menu where it has branches. But maybe I should just show you what it looks like so you can get a better idea, right? So I'm going to take this data, I'm going to select all the data, I'm going to go to the Data tab, and I'm going to choose Pivot Table. And as you can see, like, even the little icon shows you what it's going to do with that data. Now, some data are already populated. Let's just get rid of that. But you can see what you're doing over here is you're going to build your rows. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the keyword and I'm going to build a row. That's going to be that first branch of my navigation menu, so to speak, right? I'm going to put the date underneath that. So it's going to be the date that they were bidding on that keyword. And now I want the position of where they ranked at that given time, at that given point, that given month. And I'm going to put that into my values section over here, and watch what happens. Okay, there's a little info button over here that's going to allow you to do the average. Select that, and what happens is you'll see that here's the keyword in the first branch of the navigation, when they bid on that keyword, and in what position they ranked for it. So it's going to look at all these positions, and then it's going to give you the average position up here. Okay, so let's close that builder, and now I'm going to collapse these menus so that you can get a better idea. So here's all the averages, right? Now we can kind of go to the bottom, select all those averages, go back to the Data tab, and sort them by ascending. So now we have all the keywords and their average positions sorted in ascending. So these are all the keywords that are usually in an average position of 1. So they're bidding on these keywords aggressively enough to be in the first position. I mean, some of these are obviously branded terms that their quality score is lending to that position. But at the same time, you know, there's other keywords in there as well. Now, I've taken the liberty, in the interest of time again, to build this pivot table essentially for 5 of my competitors. And I'm going to go ahead and open up that workbook again. Okay, so as you can see, I've built that. I built these for 5 of my competitors: Rock Auto, Car Parts, Auto Anything, Parts Geek is a new one, and AutoPartsWarehouse.com is a new one as well. Right? And I've sorted them all by that average position. Now, what I'm going to do here, the next thing that I want to do is this is where I'm going to introduce that layer of that domain versus domain report, where it takes like the commonalities in the keywords, and this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take the keywords that are in an average position between 1 and 6, because I don't want to go any lower than 6. I mean, it's up to you. It's at your discretion. But personally, I don't go any lower than 6 because sometimes people actually want to rank in position 5 or 6 because those ads run along the side rails of the organic results. And if you have a pretty eye-catching ad, you know, you may have a higher click-through rate for some keywords in those positions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take everything, all the keywords below 7, as you can see. So when we start to get down to average position 7, I'm going to take all those keywords, copy them, and I'm going to open up a new sheet, put a column header for keyword, and paste them in. And I'm going to do that for all 5 of my competitors. I'm going to build like a big list. And this is probably what I was talking about, where you Excel experts can kind of help me out. Maybe I should probably be using something like VLOOKUP or something like that to make it a little bit easier. But I'm doing it manually, and it's not that much trouble. So I'm going to do that for all 5 of my competitors, and I've already done that. I have all keywords loaded up here, right? And here we're going to introduce the domain versus domain portion. You may have seen before, I'm going to select the entire column, and you may have seen something in Excel under the data column that says remove duplicates. But I don't want to remove the duplicates. I actually want to keep the duplicates. And there's nothing that I have readily available that'll allow me to do that in Excel, except using my favorite thing in the world, pivot tables, because it's going to look at the instances. It's going to capture and count the amount of instances. So watch this. So I'm going to take all those keywords that my competitors are ranking for in their average positions of 1 through 6. I'm going to build another pivot table out of it, which is very simple to do because we only have 1 parameter. So we have all the keywords here, and I'm going to dump that also into the values section. And as you can see, it's the count of the keywords. So it's counting the number of instances, or the number of duplicates, basically, right? So when I sort this table by those counts, I can sort this table under the Data tab and sort it by descending. And there, what you have here is a list of keywords sorted by the amount of, basically the amount of competitors that are bidding on this. So you can see auto parts discount or cheapest auto parts online. 4 out of 5 of my competitors are bidding on that term. Here's instances of 3 out of 5 of my competitors. So I'm going to pull this, and I'm going to take it down to, I don't want any less than 1 competitor. I mean, this is just for the sake of illustration. Usually you'd probably want to stay at around whether 3 of your competitors are bidding on the same keyword. But I can copy this, dump it into a new sheet. Again, there's probably a better way to do that. And here you go. So the end result, what I have here is a list of keywords that my competitors are bidding on very frequently, and most of my competitors are bidding on at least 2. So at least 2 out of the 5, 3 and 4 competitors are bidding on these keywords. So that's giving me that extra layer. And if you want to go a little deeper, check this out. I can do a character count using a very simple len function. It's equals len, open parentheses. I would choose the cell, close that, hit enter, and what that's doing essentially is counting those characters, because it's going to put our long tail keywords right up. I always forget where the fill down function is. Sorry. Okay, fill down. All right, and then I'm going to sort that in descending order. And there you go. So now we have a list of keywords that my competitors are bidding on frequently, a group of my competitors are bidding on, and it's sorted by the amount of characters, which is putting those long tail keywords right up front for me, because we know that those long tail keywords usually convert a little bit better. So here, I think, is a list of keywords that we can kind of take to the bank. You know, our competitors are bidding on them frequently, like I said, all that good stuff. And in fact, there's over 100 and something keywords that we can work with and start off with there. So when we go back to my slides, okay, so we now have our keywords, and as far as implementing our keywords, now you can sort through that list and kind of break them down into categories or you know, tightly themed groups that you can use as your campaign's ads groups. Keep in mind that how you categorize them is kind of all up to you. It's going to be dictated by the goals that your campaign and what you're trying to measure. So, like for those automotive keywords, you know, I may either break them down by brand name, or I could break them down by type of part, like sensors and valves and you know, remotes and switches. But it's all going to depend on how you want, or what you want to measure in the end. Okay. Now, that's that first component of our ads campaign that we've used competitor analysis to build. The next component is going to be our ad copy, right? So using that list of keywords that we've built, I can now start plugging these keywords into SEMrush and research our competitors' ads copy that they're using. And remember, I said there was a report that's very similar to the domain ads history report, but it's a keywords ads history report. So instead of plugging in a domain, I'm plugging in a keyword, and I can see all the ads copies from my competitors who are all bidding on that keyword. I can do an entire webinar about this, and in fact I did. So if you want to get really in depth with it, I would urge you to go to semrush.com/webinars and check out the recorded webinar section and look for improving your ads copy through competitor analysis. I did it a few months back, but the basic gist of the webinar is that you can follow the same idea of analyzing your competitors' ads copy in order to like recognize patterns and trending and commonalities, and use that information to craft your ad copy in order to come up with something compelling and attractive. Okay, so last but not least, skipped one there. Okay, so last but not least, the final component of a successful AdWords campaign is the landing page associated with the ad that you're running. And this is where you're going to direct your users after they've clicked on your ad. Now, unfortunately, I can't get into it and I can't tell you exactly how to design a landing page, but guess who can? Your competitors. So analyze their landing pages for the same keywords that you're targeting, right? And do your best, when you're doing this, do your best to kind of think like your potential visitor. Look at their landing pages objectively and, you know, figure out what makes their landing pages good or what makes them great, and ask yourself a few questions of what you can do. Can you do something similar, or how can you even like improve upon those landing pages? So come time to build the landing pages, you want to ask yourself a couple questions. One, are all the technical aspects of the landing page in check? Meaning, are the titles, the URLs, and the overall like semantic core or the concept of the body text of the landing page relevant to the ad and the keyword that you're targeting? Two, is the landing page easy to navigate? Will the visitor find or do what they intended to when they clicked on your ad? And three, if applicable, are you directing visitors to the right version of your website, like desktop versus mobile? And of course, what's the overall experience on both of those? So all three of these components are going to dramatically impact your quality score. So if you have any experience with Google AdWords, you'll know that your quality score, along with your maximum bid, is going to help determine where your ad will rank when someone searches on a particular keyword that you're targeting. Okay, so that about wraps up the paid ads section. Now we're going to move on to the organic section. Before I go into the organic section, again, I'm not going to be able to get to the, I apologize, I'm not going to be able to get to the question and answer section, so type that question into GoToWebinar. We're under a lot of time constraints today, so once I kind of extract that data from GoToWebinar, I'll be able to see your questions and have somebody reach out to you, either me or another invaluable member of our support team, and have them get back to you. So, all right, so now we're going to move on to the organic section. And when we talk about competitor analysis goals in terms of organic research, we're actually talking about improving our organic visibility and driving more organic referral traffic to the, via the search engine. And we all know, of course, that one of the best ways to do that is by creating and sharing great content. We just need to figure out how our competitors are doing this successfully. Now, last month I did a webinar called Keywords Aren't Dead, and I provided some really cool evidence. I actually showed evidence of how Google definitely is understanding the concept or the semantic concept of a website by analyzing the keywords for which a landing page was ranking for. I think I used something like scholastic.com and a specific landing page on there. We could see that Google understood what keywords to associate with this content, and it would rank this piece of content in like positions, usually 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those high-ranking positions for really tightly themed and related keywords to the article. But adversely, we could look at those keywords that are ranking in like lower positions, like 15 through 20, and actually see keywords that Google did not like to associate with the particular landing page because they were like antonyms or something, something that was like the opposite of what the article was actually about. So they were ranking these terms, this landing page, for terms that it didn't like, but it was ranking down in the lower positions. And I bring this up because I've seen so many of our users kind of misinterpret what they're seeing. So for example, I'm researching a domain, I'm doing my competitor analysis, and I'm seeing that my competitor is ranking in lower positions for a particular keyword. And now there may be a lot of users conducting competitor analysis, and they may think that, they'll get this idea that, oh, my competitor's loss is my gain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a similar piece of content, except I'm going to target these keywords that they're ranking in lower positions for in order to outrank them. But that's not really the case, because the fact that your competitor is ranking lower for that keyword may actually be because Google doesn't see enough of a valuable relationship between the keyword itself and the content on the page. And many of you know that today you can optimize your landing page for a keyword or a phrase until you're blue in the face, but ultimately Google's going to be the one deciding where those semantic relationships lie. So they may rank you for keywords which you never intended to optimize in the first place. So with that being said, we kind of have to take a different approach, and even though it seems almost counterintuitive or tough, we need to focus on where our competitors are winning in order to make, an attempt to encroach or steal their valuable, targeted, winning, traffic. Okay? Question is now, where do you begin? We all know that the organic game is long. It's a long game. It requires patience, dedication, and creativity. So as Google becomes more sophisticated, its algorithms factor in so much more than keywords. It's actually able to measure the value, the content's value to the end user. Okay, but at the same time, so remember that the only ethical way to beat your competitors at their own game is to, provide more value. But we can't ignore the fact that Google still relies on things like the keywords and backlinks and things of this nature to kind of assess that value or see where, your competitors should be ranking. So if we kind of at least arm ourselves with these data sets going into or before we start our content development strategy, then there's a better chance that we're going to win. So I'll show you where I'm going to go. And just like we had our hypothetical automotive e-tailer, we have a hypothetical website here for our organic section, and my website is going to be pregnancycorner.com. It's actually a vital resource for expectant mothers. And the competitor that I want to analyze is someone called justmommies.com. So I'm going to jump back to SEMrush. Oh, 1 second, sorry. Okay, hold on 1 moment. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to jump back to SEMrush. And and show you a couple more things real quick. Okay, so if I'm starting my competitor analysis journey as far as organic is concerned, I'm going to type in the domain that I want to analyze, and that's justmommies.com. So we are focusing on their organic data. And the first report that I want to bring up is the positions report. And in a nutshell, what this report is showing us is all the keywords that SEMrush has been able to identify with justmommies.com. So these are the keywords that are producing organic results for justmommies.com. And you can see the keywords to the left, the position that they rank for those keywords, and then some subsequent information about the keyword search volume CPC. One of the important things here is this URL column. That's showing you the landing page that's associated with that organic result. Now, SEMrush, we sort this table by default by this traffic percentage metric. Based off of the search volume and the position that you're ranking for that keyword, we're able to determine some level of traffic using like a predetermined click-through rate, basically. It's an algorithm. And sometimes, we do a great job of doing this, but you'll see here that early signs of pregnancy, we're showing that this is like their second most top performing keyword in terms of volume and position, but this keyword is actually ranking in position 11. And we all know as search marketers that it's very rare that you're getting a lot of traffic from a position 11 or a second page result. So in a way, sometimes these things can get skewed. So what I'm going to do before extracting the data from SEMrush is I actually want to see where my competitors are winning the most. And one way to know that is by sorting this in ascending order by position. And you'll see here that regardless of the search volume for the keyword, this is where my competitor is ranking. They're ranking in the first position. And actually, a lot of these keywords may be semantically related or producing results for the same URL. So, it doesn't matter that this is only a keyword that with a search volume, an average search volume of 20, because if they rank for, if the landing page ranks for the 5 different keywords that have a search volume of 20, then that's an average search volume of 100, right? Of 100. So I'm going to add that first layer of analysis within SEMrush by position, and then export that to CSV or XLS. Okay? Now, the next biggest thing that I think have the most dramatic impact is backlinks. Now, we all know the difference between ethical ways and unethical ways of doing backlinks. Okay, if you do it unethically, you're going to get penalized. But what we see here is that we have SEMrush has been able to find 22,500 backlinks for justmommies.com. Now, our backlinks data is still very much in beta stages right now, so you can't do any sorting or anything like that. But what I can do is I'm just going to dump out this entire report to Excel or CSV, and then I'm going to build that workbook just like I did with our paid guys. I'm going to use pivot tables the same way, and instead of showing you how I import it again and again, in the interest of time, I have built those pivot tables already. So I'm going to open up my organic workbook that I have. And the organic workbook consists of 2 pivot tables. One of them is for the keywords report that I pulled, and the other is for the backlinks report that I pulled. Okay? And just to show you what I've done with both of these, I'll collapse this menu here real quick and show you what I've done. Oh, sorry. Pivot table tab, collapse. Now, I've taken that keyword and I've sorted it, and I've done the first branch of my navigation menu, so to speak, is going to be the position. And when I open that up, the next branch down is going to be the URL or the landing page associated with this first position result. And then the next branch down is going to be my keywords. So I can open up any of these and see the keywords being associated with that landing page. You can see there's a ton of them here for just this pregnancy calendar alone, and the search volumes, subsequent search volumes for those keywords. And then it's going to total it up and show you the aggregate. So now if I close this up, you can see the aggregate search volumes here, the aggregate search volumes for the month, right? And now I can start crafting my content development strategy. So here's where my competitors, these are my competitors' top performing landing pages. To me, this is my strategy. So I'm looking at something like pregnancy calendar, right? Now I want to jump to, let's say I've done some reconnaissance. I've gone to their webpage and I'm looking at what they've done with their landing pages, what value they're providing to their audience. And I'm taking that information that I have and that research that I've done, and I'm crafting my own content and I'm making it better. I'm making it more engaging. And once I have that down, what I can do is then I can go refer to something like my backlinks report here, and I can show you that the first branch of our pivot table here, I'm going to search for pregnancy calendar. Okay, there you go. I found the landing page. And when I open this up, this is what you're seeing here. The first layer of this pivot table is going to be the target URL. So this is the URL on justmommies.com. And when I open it up, I'm seeing where they're getting all their backlinks from. So all the backlinks associated with that particular URL, because it's going to be a lot easier for me to visualize the data like this than in just a regular spreadsheet. So I can look at this, I can look at that landing page, see where all the backlinks are coming from, and I have some other information about how many external and internal links so that I can assess maybe the quality of the backlink. But I'm also going to be able to see where those backlinks are coming from. So let's look at it. Let's look at another example. Let's jump back to our keywords report. And here's one that I've pulled up earlier. So here's an article on justmommies.com about a subchorionic hematoma. It's something that affects pregnant women, and they want to read about it. They want to know about it, and it's producing a first position result for Just Mommies, and now I want to create some content that's going to win here, right? So I know all of the keywords that are associated with that content. I can start using them in my content and reinforcing those semantic relationships that Google likes to see, right? I can go to their landing page, I can see what they're doing, how they're doing it, I can improve upon that, and then come time to publish that and start promoting it, now I can come and look at our backlinks data. Let me actually close up what I just did. Now I can look for that. See if I spelled this right. I can look for that landing page. There you go. So I'm looking at this landing page. I'm seeing where all the backlinks are coming from. And then on top of that, if I want to go even deeper, I've done another branch of the navigation menu that's showing me the actual anchor text associated with that particular backlink. So as I can see here, I can see not only where they're getting their backlinks from, but also the different related anchor text associated with it. So we can see what they're using. Some of them use raw URLs, some of them use branded terms like Just Mommies, some of them use terms that are relevant like subchorionic hematoma. That's going to be relevant to the article on the target landing page. And so here's, and basically just between these two reports alone, I have enough fodder, I have enough ammunition to go in and start crafting a very solid strategy for my content development and backlinks building, So something like this should really help you kind of prioritize your approach. And I'm going to kind of get to the tail end of everything here. I'm going to open up, come back to my thing here. Okay, so in the long run, remember, it's all about providing value. No ifs, ands, or buts. You have to provide value to the end user. So like I said, do that little bit of reconnaissance. Go to your competitor's landing page. Understand what draws visitors and keeps visitors on their page other than the fact that they rank first for something. Yes, that factors into it, but it's not everything, okay? Because Google also looks at how people engage with that landing page too. So you have to analyze it. You have to take that out of the equation, look at it objectively, and figure out how you can make it even better, even more interactive, and even more engaging for your audience. Because there's never any magic bullet that'll get you right up to the top. When you're doing things ethically in the organic the organic side. But think about everything that you have at your fingertips even right now, just in this short amount of time. So you have the keywords that Google already successfully associates with a similar winning piece of content. Okay, you have your competitors' titles. You have their URLs. You know where their backlinks are. You know whether they're no follow or follow or do follow, I should say. Okay. You have an idea of which ones are quality, and even better, which ones aren't of quality. So the ones that aren't lending any value. That way, you know which ones to stay away from. Okay, and not to hurt your landing page. And you know what anchor text is being used, how often it's being used, and how it's being distributed. And last but not least, arguably the most important, you're not going in blind. Like I said, you already know what's on your competitor's landing page. It's like they've thrown their cards on the table. So now you just need to improve upon it. You need to improve the value of the content to the end user and improve the user experience too. That's important as well. If you guys want to see more on the technical implementation of keywords in terms of on-site optimization, again, I'd urge you to check out that webinar, Keywords Aren't Dead. I go into it a little bit more in depth. Again, that's on semrush.com/webinars under the recorded webinars section. All right, so that about wraps that up. We talked about the analysis and the implementation of both organic and paid data. So let's wrap it all up. What are the final thoughts? So regardless of whether your goal is to create a successful AdWords campaign or improve your organic referral traffic through content development, it's clear to see that a little data is going to go a long way. Okay? If you're investing time into researching your competitors' content and link building strategies, or figuring out what they're doing, what keywords they're bidding on, what ads copy they're using, and what their landing pages are like, you're definitely 100% going to minimize the trial and error associated with establishing these strategies, and therefore you're going to see the benefit of your hard work much sooner. Okay? In the time that it took, essentially in the time it took to watch this webinar, you could have already begun improving one area of your AdWords campaign or created some solid content or a great landing page with the intelligence data that we've gathered here. So think of what you can do with a little bit more invested time. Just a little bit more invested time. You can improve your entire campaign. You could improve your entire website. So keep in mind, though, there's no exact science. Again, these ideas were my own. And everything uses algorithms. SEMrush uses algorithms. Google uses algorithms. Our brain, in a way, our logical way of thought is an algorithm. And there's no exact science. Even Google's algorithms are kind of subject to error. But I hope that many of you will be able to take the information, the data, and the methods that I've used and shown you today and kind of build on them or modify them to kind of suit your needs. So with that, I wish you guys good luck on your journey of competitor analysis, and I thank you for attending today's webinar. So if you enjoyed this, please feel free to let me know. Please share it, and please come back in the future. There is a survey at the end of this webinar once you close it out that is going to ask you 5 short, simple questions. It helps me very much assess my performance and figure out what kind of content to bring you guys every month. So it's going to help me a lot. And then also there is in question number 4 or 5, there is a short link, a short URL link, a bit.ly link for new users to take advantage of a 2-week free trial of SEMrush Guru, which is going to allow you to kind of explore everything that you saw here in the webinar today. Again, I do very much apologize that I'm not going to be able to get to a question answer section today because of the time constraints. So if you have any questions, type them into a GoToWebinar. I'm going to pull that data, I'm going to look at it later, and I'm going to have somebody get back to you and answer your questions. I appreciate it very much, and hopefully I'll see you guys again in the future. Thank you.